What is up, YouTube? Back in the garage. We got another RX8 video today. Got the MR2 in the garage also. As you guys know, this thing is ready to start getting worked on, and the supercharger kit, the custom kit that I'm gonna make, is about to get underway. But there are still some things to finish up on the RX8. So drift season is officially underway. So Nick has already been to the track once, probably by the time you've seen this video, probably twice. I knew I was not gonna get this thing ready in time for the beginning of the season, kind of like practice events. I definitely want to be able to practice before I go out on, you know, like a main track event. So before that can happen, I need to get the rest of the drift items ready for this car, which includes the bash bar, which I still need to weld up and add some more to it. The angle, because I don't want to be caught running stock angle. And then also I need to weld up this extra diff that I have so that I have a locked rear end. So these are some pretty important things I'd say before I want to go drift. One, I can't drift with an open differential. And I found out the one in the car is pretty much open. I don't even think it has the LSD that some of the RX8s have. The steering angle, I could probably learn with stock steering angle, but while I'm here, I might as well get more. And then the bash bar, obviously, my bumper is completely gone and my AccuSump is hanging out front, along with my Koyo Red radiator. So I want to get that bash bar welded up and on the car in order to protect it if something would happen. I really was looking forward to going to the Drift 101 like clinic that they have at Summit Point. That's actually this weekend, and unfortunately I'm just not going to get there. The car is just, I'd say, not quite ready. I'm not quite comfortable enough to drive it even on the road. There's some issues with like the gas pedal and stuff that I need to work out, along with just the rest of my wiring up front. I think some of it might rub on the wheels before I, get it all tucked up and whatnot. So there was no reason to rush getting this thing done for this weekend, because ultimately I think it would have just given me problems and I would have gotten burned out and just regretted it. But there will be other events nearby that would have an open like figure 8 or practice track, kind of for beginners like me, to test this thing out. So for today, here's what I got going on. I got these spare knuckles, and what I'm going to try to do is the common drift knuckle mod for most drift cars, and it's really the main thing you can do to RX8s to give them more angle without going with a $2,500 Wives Fab kit. So as you can see here, these are the same exact knuckles on the car, where this tie rod actually pushes out on the knuckle to steer. This location can actually be brought in towards the axis of the hub to give yourself more angle. So I'm gonna just try and draw out the geometry here. If this is your axis that your hub is rotating on, so we'll call this your knuckle. So this is like the top view of the knuckle. It can rotate this way or this way to steer. And whenever that pickup point is here for the tie rod's coming out here. Whenever your tie rod pushes out to make your wheel turn, you're gonna get some weird geometry. So here's your axis again. You're gonna get some triangles. That is gonna push that hub this way. Here's your tie rod. If I draw two lines down here from the center, which is where the tie rod started, and then the distance that it pushed it out at that pickup point, this distance here is going to be constant. So that's just going to be, I'm just going to call that X. That's not going to change. But if I draw my axis here again, if I move my pickup point from my tie rod into here, so instead of being the whole way out here at the end of the knuckle, I move it in. This distance here is going to be the same that the tie rod pushes out. That's still X. But because it's in closer to the axis of the wheel, your old pickup point, if you can imagine, would be out here. It's actually getting pushed out further because the pickup point was moved in, thus creating more steering angle. So hopefully that was an all right illustration for what's going on. Basically, I'm gonna move this pickup point for my tie rod in probably about an inch, maybe a little bit more, in order to create that effect with the angles and create more steering angle. There's some other things to worry about when doing this. Most angle kits, like a Wives Fab kit, would have like full Ackerman adjustment, and Ackerman is the difference between your leading front wheel and your trailing front wheel at full lock. And what I'm going to try to do is actually leave my Ackerman the same. So I'd get a stock Ackerman feel, which should feel a little bit smoother and more streetable while also feeling fine in drift. So I'm going to try to leave that Ackerman right on that center line, which should be easy enough to line up. So what I'm going to do with these things is cut them, and I'm going to use my nice TIG welder here to TIG them up. Because these are cast, you need to put a lot of heat into them in order to get good fusion between the two metals. in between your weld. So if you're using MIG welding, I'd probably preheat them because you can't get as much heat from MIG welding. Whereas with TIG welding, I can crank the amps up, get these things red hot, and put plenty of heat into them. And from what I've read and heard, that is the best way to get good fusion. So I'm gonna go ahead and figure out where I need to lay out marks to cut and then somehow jig it to weld it. So enjoy the process. All right guys, got this one pretty much done. I basically tried to get this ligament, my weld thickness, pretty much as big as this cross section from the piece I cut off. Once I get them both done, I'll clean this one up and spray them with some paint. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off and get it tacked on. So we're just gonna cut to that right here, and it's done. All right, guys, the knuckles are officially in the car. The car is on the ground, and it's time to see how much angle we have. What's up, guys? Back in the garage. We are experimenting a little bit because I found out that my wheel is hitting my ABS unit in here where I ended up mounting that. Before I go and adjust this, I want to see what I can do with my offset to basically get the wheel out far enough that it's not hitting at max angle. I found out that the spacers I had on the front are different than the ones that were on the back. So I'm putting these bigger ones on to see if it bumps it out enough. Plus, Nick is going to let me try one of these bad boys. Or both of them.
No, they're each 5.
They're each 5, so this would put me at a 50 mil, a 2-inch spacer. Don't judge me. All right, guys, we got the 40 mil. What's up, Matt?
So
got the 40 mil on here plus 2 5s. So this is equivalent to a 50 mil spacer, and it's really not as bad as I thought. What do you think?
No, it's not too bad.
Fitment-wise.
I mean, I have 30 mil in the front of my car, but
Right. It doesn't sound good, but
I mean, let's be real here. Everyone runs 25 mils.
that's true.
Everyone buys wheels that have terrible specs, and they throw
Yeah.
a 25 mil on. So
I've had a 25 mil spacer on every car I've owned at one point. So, so yeah, the fitment. I mean, and it's not on the ground either, so it's hard to tell. But the big thing is the spacer still didn't give me the clearance. So even with the big spacer, now I'm just hitting in another spot. So what I'm gonna try to do later on down the road, well, very soon probably, because I want to be able to get this thing driving, is I'm gonna bump my ABS into the engine bay a little bit, out of the wheel well, because currently there's just too much sticking out here into the wheel well, and that's what I'm hitting. So as the wheel comes in, you can see that's basically the limiting factor right now, is this ABS unit. So once I bump that in probably about a 1/2 inch or so, that should give me the clearance I need. But considering that, I'd still say the welded knuckles were a success, because
oh yeah, for sure.
Nick is telling me that that is way more angle than I'm gonna need. So
I don't know if it's more than you're gonna need, but it looks like a lot. I mean, I've never really even looked at the angle on my car, maybe once or twice.
So if you're wondering, cutting 1.5 inches out of your knuckles, that's what it's gonna look like for angle. So if you're comparing to what you have, I didn't really.
Not even all the way.
Yeah, that's hitting the ABS. So let me turn it the other way, because I'm not hitting on the other side. So there is not hitting anything, maxed out. And I guess there's no fender, but you kind of get the picture. All right, guys. So this thing's one step closer to drifting. Looking forward to the warm weather and getting this thing done so I can get it driving. So next video, we still got some more drift things to do. So look out for that. And until then, we're gonna go get some dinner and chill out for a little bit. So thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and have a good night.